Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're doing something seriously fascinating. We're opening up the Bhagavad Gita, but we are definitely not going to read it like some dusty historical text. Oh no, we're going to unpack it to look at modern cognitive bias, emotional filtering, and human psychology. Stick with me here, because by the end of this explainer, you're going to see exactly how deeply relevant this 5,000-year-old ancient wisdom is to the everyday decisions we all make.
Now, I want to start by posing a question that might just challenge some of your assumptions. Can one single ancient sentence really explain modern leadership failure? Like, can a line written millennia ago diagnose exactly why a modern CEO, a politician, or even a parent makes catastrophic ethical mistakes today? The answer, incredibly, is yes. We're going to look at just one sentence today, literally the very first sentence of the Bhagavad Gita.
Okay, let's dive into this. The verse is spoken by the physically blind King Dhritarashtra, who asks his advisor, "O Sanjaya, assembled on the sacred field of Kurukshetra, desiring to fight, what did my sons and the sons of Pandu do?" Now, on the surface, this just sounds like a completely standard introductory question. You know, a king asking his visionary advisor for a quick status update on a battlefield. But beneath these words lies the entire psychological foundation of the text. This isn't just an intro. It's a profound, incredibly sharp diagnosis of ego, fear, and family favoritism.
Section 1. Decoding the Hidden Words, a Forensic Analysis.
Now, what's really interesting about this contrast is how it reveals the true nature of the conflict. To truly understand why this verse is so powerful, you have to look at the difference between the physical and the ethical. The king refers to the location as Kurukshetra, which is the literal dirt battlefield. It's just a piece of political territory. But the very first word of the actual text is Dharmakshetra, which translates to the field of righteousness. This changes absolutely everything. It tells us right out of the gate that this war isn't merely military or political. The battlefield represents human life itself. It's an ethical testing ground where wisdom and ignorance collide. Look closely at how the king categorizes the people in this conflict. He specifically asks what my sons and the sons of Pandu did. But notice what he crucially didn't say. He didn't say our family, or our children, or the Kurus, even though they all belong to the exact same royal family. With just that one phrasing, the king completely exposes his attachment-based division. His ego is splitting reality into my people versus your people, or my success versus your loss. And this right here, this is one of the ultimate root causes of all human conflict. Moving on to Section 2, the psychology of moral blindness. So we're talking about moral blindness here. King Dhritarashtra isn't just physically blind. The text is symbolically portraying him as morally blind. And what does that actually mean? Well, it means knowing that something is wrong, knowing that a massive injustice is occurring, but refusing to stop it because your emotional attachment totally overpowers your ethical judgment. The king knows his son Duryodhana is unjust. He knows this war is going to be incredibly destructive. Yet he remains totally passive because his attachment to his own blood completely destroys his wisdom. And this brings us to a really fascinating psychological mystery. Think about it. The armies are already gathered. They're standing there, weapons drawn, explicitly desiring to fight. So, why is the king anxiously asking Sanjay what they're doing? It makes absolutely zero logical sense, but psychologically, it is profound. The king is asking because subconsciously he fears the truth. When people support an injustice or an unethical cause, they become internally insecure. Deep down, the king knows that his side's position is fundamentally unstable. He is absolutely terrified of the moral defeat that is inevitably coming.
Section 3. The Internal Battlefield.
And this brilliantly illustrates how these ancient armies map perfectly to our own internal qualities. Inside every single one of us, there are the Pandavas, representing our higher qualities. Truth is Yudhishthira. Focused intelligence is Arjuna. Discipline is Nakula. But right across the battlefield are the Kauravas, our lower tendencies. We all have elements of greed, like Duryodhana, manipulation, like Shakuni, and of course the blind attachment of Dhritarashtra himself. Every single day, your mind is a Kurukshetra, where you have to make the choice between ethics and greed, between courage and fear.
Section 4. Modern Leadership and Ethics.
So how does this 5,000-year-old map translate to modern life? Directly. In business, we see leaders fail dramatically when nepotism and ego replace merit and fairness. In politics, nations weaken and collapse when institutions become biased and justice is applied selectively based on tribal thinking. And in the family dynamic, we see it all the time when parents unquestioningly defend their children's toxic or unethical behavior instead of guiding them with true love, which, by the way, must always include discipline and moral correction. In every single sector of society, unchecked emotional attachment simply destroys effective leadership.
So the crucial point is understanding what this text is actually saying, and maybe more importantly, what it's not saying. This verse should never, ever be used to justify tribal hatred, glorify blind violence, or demand unquestioning family loyalty when that family is clearly doing wrong. That is literally the exact blindness being diagnosed here. Instead, the true teachings are all about self-awareness, impartial justice, and having the ethical courage to act rightly even when it goes against your own biases or personal attachments.
Section 5. The ultimate takeaway.
You know, the Bhagavad Gita doesn't begin with some grand lecture on cosmic truths. It actually begins by exposing the very first enemy of wisdom. The ultra-deep core insight here is that the absolute greatest blindness a human being can suffer from isn't physical. It's attachment, it's ego, and it's the stubborn refusal to see the truth. Before any true spiritual or ethical wisdom can even begin to arise in your life, you have to first recognize your own moral confusion. You've got to spot your own emotional filtering. So, I want to leave you with a really powerful, provocative question to ponder as you go about the rest of your day. What is your mama kaha? Where is that mine versus yours thinking showing up in your own life? Where is emotional attachment blinding your ethical judgment today? Take a hard look at your own internal battlefield. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this breakdown gave you a totally new lens through which to view leadership, ethics, and your own mind. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you in the next one.